Hello, hello. How's everyone doing? JNUC Day 2. Good. My name's Jordan. I'll be your host. There will be some time for Q&A at the end, so save your questions. But please welcome to the stage Sonia and Jennifer.
Hi, everyone, and welcome. We are so excited to have you here for the Jamf School Health Check, digging deep for a healthier environment. Think of this like a wellness check for your Jamf School setup. We look under the hood, uncover common issues, and talk through best practices that make your environment stronger, healthier, and easier to manage. By the end of the session, you will have practical steps you can take back to your school to improve performance and create a smoother experience for both educators and students. My name is Sonia Duarte. I am a professional services engineer at Jamf, and in my role, I partner with schools and organizations to help them get the most of your Jamf School investment, whether that means solving technical challenges, streamlining workflows, or building healthier setups for the long term. I'm really excited to share some of that experience with all of you today as we dive into our Jamf School Health Check. And now, I'll hand it over to Jennifer, who will introduce herself and walk us through today's agenda.
Thanks, Sonia. Hi, everyone. I'm Jennifer. I'm also a professional services engineer. Prior to joining Jamf, I was in education for 11.5 years, managing both Chrome devices and predominantly Apple's devices. So today I'm really excited to help both Sonia and all of you go through a Jamf School health check. So in our agenda today, we're going to talk about the Jamf School environment. We're going to talk about enrollment, profiles, app deployment, both giving you tips on how to complete your own health check and then wrapping up with its benefits. Sending it over to Sonia.
You may be asking yourself, what exactly is a Jamf School health check? That is a great question, and that is why we are here today. A health check is essentially a review of your Jamf School setup, including integrations such as Jamf Apple School Manager for your automated device enrollment, volume and purchasing, and the Apple push notification services. From there, we make recommendations to align your environment with best practices, like setting Jamf School to check for OS updates automatically. Our goal is to help you optimize your Jamf School so it works for your unique needs.
All right, so we're going to kick it off. We're going to think about Jamf School as an expedition. We're going to explore Jamf School just like we would a gold mine, having layers, and so does Jamf School. Exploring the surface layer of enrollment, the bedrock layer of profile structure, and the valuable gold vein of app deployment. And finally, the crucial maintenance that we need to keep it all running smoothly. So with that, Sonia's going to get started with the surface layer.
Welcome to the surface area. In this section, we'll be digging into the different aspects of device enrollment, exploring what it takes to ensure your devices are properly set up and ready to go in your Jamf School environment. First, let's talk about how to verify your ADE status. Checking the ADE status ensures that each device is correctly enrolled and ready for management from the start. It helps prevent delays, enrollment errors, or configuration issues down the line. And it's a critical first step in maintaining a smooth, predictable Jamf School environment. By verifying the ADE, we can catch potential problems early and make sure devices are fully prepared for deployment. Next, we talk about token health. Who has ever experienced an issue with a token?
Awesome.
Right? And I can assure you that you are not alone. Tokens keep the Jamf School environment running. The APNS certificate ensures all the communication with devices. The BPP token is needed for your app management and deployment, and the AD token is what automated device enrollment relies on. When a token fails or expires, devices can get commands, apps won't install, and enrollment can halt entirely. Okay, our next step will be to talk about a seamless out-of-the-box experience. The key components for an out-of-the-box experience will be pre-stage enrollment, where we configure devices ahead of time so they are ready for users immediately. Jamf Connect for macOS will simplify authentication and identity management for users. The Setup Assistant or Setup Manager will guide users through initial device setup while enforcing policies automatically. What can go wrong? When enrollment isn't set up correctly, it can have a wide range of consequences that impact both administrators and end users. Some of the key impacts will include devices not being assigned to the correct MDM server and Apple School Manager. Language regions or naming conventions are not consistent, which can lead to confusion and conflicting profiles. Missed or conflicting settings will prevent devices from receiving the right configurations. If the synchronization between Apple School Manager and Jamf School is not properly configured, that will cause interruptions in shared iPad setups. And now we're gonna get back with Jennifer, and she will walk us through the Bedrock layer.
Thank you. All right, so the Bedrock layer, profiles. Let's get right into it. So when we're talking about profiles, we're talking about hierarchy, right? We all know that when we send out profiles, we can do it at a device level, a user level, or less often the shared level if we're doing like a one-to-one. When we're deploying those profiles, Jamf School likes groups, right? So groups can be in a static form or they can be in a smart group form, giving that dynamic criteria. We can also talk about profiles and conflicting settings, and we'll get into that a couple slides later. But now as we talk about this, we're gonna look at consolidating and separating profiles. So when consolidating, it does have a purpose, right? It can be Wi-Fi settings, it could be a setting that makes sense across the entire fleet. It simplifies maintenance, but sometimes things change, and with that, it may be easier to have separate profiles for each change. An example of this would be we want to disable the App Store and maybe the news, and then we change into managed Apple accounts, and now we want to give back the App Store. Well, had we separated out those profiles, we would have to just make one change versus opening up everything. Now let's talk about conflicts. Conflicts, they cause havoc, right? We've all experienced it where we've deployed two profiles, maybe disabling the camera, enabling FaceTime, and then sending out another one in the reverse, causing both the camera and FaceTime to be disabled. So cross-checking and making sure that you are looking at those profiles and checking those settings before we deploy en masse is also key. And then auditing is also a great idea. And then doing consistent naming structures, right? If it's for staff, we should give it something with a staff name. If it's for students, maybe it has something with stu or student in it. Next, we'll talk about tips for updates and scoping, right? So the Bedrock layer took us through profiles. They lay down a set of instructions for the device. It could be based to a static group or a smart group. Essentially, we want to make sure that we cross-check those groups and make sure that they're bringing in the devices that we want to have action made on. We also want to have, again, those consistent naming profiles. Always testing before we deploy out to mass, and it's possible maybe scheduling out those changes. Scheduling just means that we're not interrupting learning time. And then finally, documenting. Document can be cumbersome, I understand, but it also is beneficial for not only yourself and your team, but maybe somebody who takes over your position in the future. And with that, we're gonna go into the gold layer.
Okay. So next, we're gonna talk about what we like to call the gold vein, or approach to app deployment and scoping strategy. This is all about making sure the right apps and resources reach the right users at the right time. Proper scoping ensures that apps are deployed efficiently without conflicts, unnecessary installations, or wasted licenses. We walk through best practices for scoping by user, groups, devices types, or locations, and show how careful planning in this area can make your Jamf School environment more streamlined and predictable. I'm sure that we all use BPP license management. That is now part of Apple School Manager apps and book. BPP allows schools to centrally purchase apps, making distribution and management much simpler. User-based assignment is very flexible because licenses will follow the user, not the device. This is ideal for one-to-one environments where the users move between devices. Device-based assignment still has its place, particularly for shared iPads or computer labs. Now, let's discuss scoping considerations. Essentially deciding who or what will receive the apps. As we just saw on our previous slide, the one-to-one environments when applications will follow the students if they switch devices. Devices groups are more reliable in environments like classroom with shared devices or grade level course. And often, a mixed strategy will work best. The key here is to think about your Jamf School workflow and how devices will move between users. Now, let's talk about smart groups and some best practices for app deployment. Smart groups will let us set rules. For example, all iPads in grade 6. So apps will automatically assign as soon as devices or users meet the criteria. Consistent naming convention for apps and groups can save hours of troubleshooting, especially when multiple admins are managing the environment. And we also need to avoid overlapping scopes. This will cause conflicts and confusion about why apps aren't installing correctly. And lastly, we're going to talk about the self-service app, which is the Jamf student app in Jamf School. So the benefits of the self-service will be to reduce the clutter by only pushing required apps to install automatically and let the students and teachers to choose optional tools themselves. Core apps must be pushed by grade level automatically at enrollment. This will save a huge amount of setup time. And another best practice will be to automate license reclaim. So free licenses get reused without manual cleanup. Right now, we're gonna hand it back to Jennifer for our next layer.
All right, so here we are at the maintenance layer. We've talked about enrollment, we've talked about profiles, we've talked about applications, but how do we keep it all running smoothly? So creating a routine health check is definitely a benefit, right? We talk about that it's not just a one-time thing. It should be consistent and maybe something that you do every semester or maybe on a break or even the summer, but the summer gets a little hectic. So maybe doing that during the school year makes more sense. Also, review those core areas. Profiles, your apps, especially those apps that have cost associated to them, we definitely want to make sure that we pull those back if it's not being used. Your group structures, right? Are they doing what they're supposed to be doing? Is there a way that we can streamline that? Again, just documenting and making sure that you are doing a consistent health check will definitely set you up for success. So ultimately, what do? We build an internal checklist, right? So we want to talk about key items. Again, are those profiles scoped correctly with no conflicts? That's going to circle back to that testing before we mass deploy. Are your app licenses being used properly, or are they being wasted? Do devices meet your baseline compliance, right? Do we have security measures in place? Are passcodes being enforced, and restrictions and so forth? Are there outdated groups, right? Things change constantly through the school year. So we want to make sure that if we are outdated groups, we remove those, and then also can we retire profiles that we're maybe not using? Over time, ultimately, the checklist is going to be repeatable, and it'll be a great playbook for us as admins. So building that internal checklist. Wait, I just did that one. Let's go one more. So leveraging reports, right? So Jamf School, I think, has one of the greatest dashboards. It gives you everything at a high level of what's happening in your system. So again, giving you real-time feedback. This can be a great start for your Jamf health check. You're looking at deployment of apps, versions, OS versions, Mac OS versions, and then lean onto the filter option within those groups to making reports and sharing with leadership. Leadership is definitely going to want to know those answers to plan and scale for the next school year. Should it go? Oh, there we go. Scaling and growth with change, right? We expand and all the time. We order devices, and we've got to get those out very quickly. So in your health check, as you're looking at things, we want to make sure that those naming conventions are standardized. You know, clear naming conventions mean that it's easier for you to figure out what's happening within your system. We also want to document those workflows. Documenting means it's easier for you, and you're not spending time trying to figure out what is occurring here. We also want to try to lean on automating with smart groups. That makes life easier as we are cycling through grade levels and making sure that things are coming in and falling off properly. And then, as always, we plan for expansion. You know, if we're adding an additional grade, if we're adding an additional classroom, or possibly a brand new school, how can we replicate what we're doing and then make it better for the following year? All right, Sonia's going to take us through the benefits of a health check.
Thank you. Okay, so now that we have walked through all of the layers of the Jamf School health check, we're going to focus on the actual benefits. The very first one is that it helps to maximize your yield, ensuring you are getting the most out of your Jamf School investment. It also helps to prevent cave-ins, proactively identifying and resolving potential issues before they impact learning. It also helps to refine your operations, streamline workflows for a greater efficiency, and save valuable IT time. Secure your assets. It helps to strengthen device security and compliance. And the last one, future-proof your foundation.
All right, so shameless plug, Jamf Professional Services. We're always here to help. We want to partnership with you. We can definitely help you go through the health check, looking at best practices, looking at building a report for you. So essentially what we can do is build out that report, giving you feedback to help you plan throughout the school year and when you can make changes. It can also help you save time and reduce risk. I know as educators, we wear a lot of different hats, and maybe bringing in professional services can help you get to that next step. So essentially what we're saying is we want to help you level up and help you have a healthier, scalable Jamf School environment.
Okay, we also have for all of you today a toolkit that all can access to. And everything that we see in this slide, it has built thinking on how can we get you started. So there will be how to enable the token renewal, email notification set up so we don't forget renewing the tokens. Profile map template and the app deployment guide will help you to start documenting those areas. The Jamf School app deployment tracker and a scoping decision tree, when to scope to one-to-one or consolidated scopings.
All right. So we've made it to the end. So we'll open up the floor, share your feedback, your questions. We even can just have a discussion about your current challenges that you are having right now, and then we'll just take it from there. Anybody?
Let me know. Raise your hand. Okay, I don't think the, okay, there we go. There we go.
I have a silly question.
Yes.
What is a smart group and how is it best utilized?
You want to take that one?
What is a smart group and?
Yeah. What is a smart group?
Okay, smart groups are groups that are configured dynamically. So you will set the criteria for the smart group, and every device or user that falls under that criteria is going to be part of the group. For example, if we are integrating with a student information system in Jamf School, and we are looking for every student in the pre-K grade, if we are pulling up the data to Jamf School and we set that a smart group, every user that is part of the pre-K will be part of the group, as well as the device that is coming as assigned to that specific user.
So it's only for devices assigned to specific users?
That is correct. So when I work with Jamf School onboardings, there is that it feels like redundant because you have to build a user group and then you have to call that group as a nested group to build the device group for those devices.
Thank you.
Okay. Anyone else at all? All right, well, thanks for coming in, everyone.
We gotta wait. We got one.
Sorry, I did not see that. There we go.
Might be another silly question, but can you go more into why user groups are best for one-to-one enrollments compared to like a device group and things like that?
Yes, I'm sorry. Could you repeat that one more time?
Sorry. Can you go more into why user groups are best for one-to-one enrollment?
User groups for one-to-one enrollment?
Yeah, I thought you mentioned in the slides that user groups were best for one-to-one enrollment when distributing apps and whatnot.
Yeah, so I think what we're saying, or what I'm hearing, is when we're doing enrollment and we're talking about a one-to-one, right? So every student has a device and they're assigned to it. So using the user groups makes sense because as soon as they're pulled out of that group, the license is going to free up. So essentially, you're both assigning the license because you have to create the user group, and then you also have to create the device group, and just like Sonia said, nest them together to then deploy at the user level. Does that get where you're going?
Yeah, there is also a difference in cost when it comes to device licenses and user licenses. So a lot of schools, if they choose to use user licenses, those licenses will follow the user, even if they change devices. And then the other ones that are considered to be device licenses, if the device breaks, you can reclaim the license and assign it to a different device. But there is a difference in prices, and that is a special consideration when you are working with paid apps.
Okay, thank you.
Great feedback. Thank you.
Anyone else at all? Last chance. All right, thanks for coming in, everyone. Please give a round of applause for Sonia and Jennifer.